Clearly, data is valuable. We all know that it's a requirement these days. How much is too much data?
A global pipeline report that contains 800 deals isn't usable to anybody. But how do we build a database of transactions using standards we've set? How are we being efficient with our the deal pass rates to still have the data and database, but silo it within a platform effectively so that it can be accessed, but doesn't clog up the real key opportunities and doesn't obscure them.
It's great to have 30 years of data, but the challenge is overall consistency, methodology, and data governance, right? So you can be able to compare markets 10 years back, but knowing that, again, inventories change and discount rates and the calculation change. As long as you understand that data set.
What I alluded to earlier is a really strong set of analysis tools for scenarios that we've developed and released in the last year that teams can take advantage of, and then also building very meaningful comparable database. So if you take scenarios as one kind of element of it, what's the macroeconomics? What's the things out of our control or things out of our knowledge base per se? And then you couple that with, well, here's our experience. Here's, the 25 buildings we've looked at near Spaghetti Junction in Atlanta, and here's why we didn't move on 20 of them, or here's what they went for. You layer those two together, it gets very powerful.
What do you see coming next in terms of your strategy?
As a firm, to start operating in a more global manner, kind of breaking out of the silos that was just implicit within a very regional operating structure. And so as you can imagine, if we're operating within regions, all of our data, all of our application platforms are very region specific. So it was really to say, how do we realize the efficiencies and economies of scale that operating in a more global One LaSalle way could bring? How do we then really consolidate applications and data into one so we can actually glean kind of global insights from it? During this little bit of a slowdown in the market, we've actually doubled down on kind of our technology focus and say, this is the best time to focus on improving our applications and data initiatives around transactions and acquisitions, because there's a little bit of time to do that, as opposed to trying to do it during the really kind of hectic, frantic periods where everyone's back into the market.
As the velocity of transactions pick up, or as things get better, do you think things will revert back to the way they were when we didn't have time to actually deal with the data?
The constant thing we have is that we've got to leverage the information or lessons learned over the last 3 years and benefit from us going forward. The more data, more discipline we're going to have to be going forward. So I don't think there's any slowing of the data effort going forward.
How do we utilize AI and its capabilities to have a turnaround on a flyer OM in a matter of a few minutes rather than a much longer time period? And can we start to draw macro themes across, well, here's all the data ingested about Atlanta and here's how it compares to Chicago? And
how much is too much data? Like, what are we striving for here? Do we just get everything and then figure it out, or do we be more strategic in the way we think about how we capture data?
Perhaps in our rush to get the data out there, get it in front of people, move on to the next data, we really didn't focus enough on data governance, data quality, and traceability, all of that kind of stuff. So part of what we're going to do in 2024 is kind of go back to the basics of ensuring that the data is clean, we know exactly where it came from, who signed off on it, etc., because that will only build more trust and confidence in the data. Because as we look to go to AI, and we've all probably seen AI hallucinations, well, guess what? If you've got poor quality data or people don't trust the veracity of that data, that's only going to make the AI hallucinations worse, and then people aren't going to want to use it at all. So to a certain extent, we're going back to the basics.
What's the opportunity cost of that? What are we leaving behind?
There's actual real costs. Teams have come to DealPath because they've lost deposits on transactions because they can't handle the dates and the scheduling needed to accurately move on the deals. So that's very real, right? I mean, that's millions of dollars. That's probably lost jobs. That's possible worst case scenario.
How do we use and leverage technology reflects on attracting the next generation. And we're wasting their talent, because the reality is the resources are finite. So if they're spending all their time wrangling data, consolidated, reconciling data, we're not using their analytical skills to be able to look at things like back testing. There's so many other things we could do with their kind of intellectual curiosity and capabilities rather than just really wrangling data.